Hello and welcome to Golden Rosa Tarot. Welcome back if you've been here before, or welcome if it's your first time here. Today I want to do a reading on sparking our internal joy. And I've had this idea for this reading for a couple weeks now, and things happened, life happened, and now I'm able to do it like 2 or 3 weeks later. So I'm just sharing that because I think it's a good analogy for the things that make us happy in life. Life does get in the way, absolutely, and things happen, and circumstances can be unconducive to us doing the things that make us really happy. And so I'm just sharing this for the perspective that it's okay that our joy gets delayed sometimes. It's, in fact, a part of life. But we can come back to the things that make us happy, and that's what I want to focus on today is, when the circumstances open up, when we find the space and time. Even today, ironically, I'll just share honestly, I'm feeling a bit down in myself. I'm not feeling like the oracle of joy in the moment at all. So it's also kind of an experiment for me to say, okay, like I wanted to do this reading for a while, and I was quite sick and I couldn't do it. And now that I'm feeling better physically, I'm up against feeling down, sort of emotionally and mentally. So I'm just going to push through today and see if we can come up with some beautiful messages for sparking our joy. So thank you for being with me today. I'll start off with some tarot just to get a basis for the reading. I always like to pull a couple tarot cards just to get some archetypes to work with off the bat. So dear Spirit, can you please give us some archetypes to work with in sparking our joy? How would Spirit today instruct us to find our joy? And I say today because, it's always going to be different. So hopefully when you find this reading, it's the right time for you for this particular message. But these readings are never all inclusive. There's always, of course, going to be millions and billions and trillions of ways to spark our joy. We're just going to see what comes through today, some ideas. So, dear Spirit, I'm like losing my cards. Dear Spirit, can you please give us some tarot, some archetypes to work with to spark our joy today? Oh, right away we have the Empress. Very beautiful energy. We have the Fool. These cards are so similar looking. This is the Shadowscape Tarot. It's a really beautiful tarot. It's a little bit different than the traditional one, and it's in the way it depicts the illustrations. All right, Spirit, can you give us one more archetype, please, to work with today to spark our joy? Oh, wow. Okay. So first up, these are all major arcana cards, and the major arcana does deal with the big lessons of our soul, the soul's journey through its existence. So these are all like big energies to work with and very beautiful energies. So we're starting off with the we're starting off with the Empress over here. And she's depicted as this beautiful woman holding a basket of flowers with butterflies. I think my light is causing a reflection there. Next we have the Fool, where this character is standing on the precipice of a cliff with her arms spread out like she's going to fly. And then finally we have the Star. The Star is my absolute favorite tarot card, so I'm really happy it came out today. And we have the character sort of dancing in a pool of water, maybe a lake or a stream, and she's dancing beneath this big beautiful star, and everything's very celestial. So these are very Very beautiful magical energies coming out today. The Empress is sort of the kind of the Earth Mama card, I would call her. She's um, yesterday we talked about the Emperor. If you watched the reading I posted about love, the It's Friday, I'm in Love reading, and we talked about the Emperor and how he's about rules and strategy and authority and father figure and that kind of world. And then the Empress is the sort of feminine energy counterpart to that energy of the Emperor. She's sort of the Earth Mama. She's very connected to nature. She's often depicted as being pregnant, and she holds in the traditional card the sign of Venus on, I think it's her dress or a shield or something. So the sign of, pleasure and sensuality. So the Empress has very clear messages for sparking our joy, and that's, I would say, first and foremost is our connection to nature. You know, we are animals, essentially. I like the concept. There's a concept that every human being is made up of part animal and part alien, which is so far my favorite theory, because you can kind of see that play out a bit when you look at people. But the point is, we are created from the earth. We are created from this environment in which we live that we couldn't exist without. And so we feel good when we're with our ultimate mama. We feel good when we're walking barefoot on the grass. We feel good when we're near bodies of water. We feel good when we're getting fresh air and exercising and hiking. We feel good when we're going to a botanical garden and looking at all these flowers. Like, you're inherently going to feel good usually when you're in nature. I say usually because I realize our own internal state is also going to be at play in any environment that we're in. But for me, I know, like, that's kind of my saving grace in life, is that I go to the mountains or I go to the beach and I just go completely into the natural world, and that resonates strongly for me as a way to spark joy. And the other aspect of the Empress is, like I said, she's often depicted as being pregnant, and that's not necessarily a literal pregnancy. It can be, if that's your form of creating human beings. It's very cool. But metaphorically, it speaks more to the creation of whatever it is we bring forth into this world. So, in whatever gender you're expressing as, in whatever way you do creativity, being creative, letting out your gifts is a huge factor in being happy, I think. And I'm finding that to be true for myself. Like, I kind of going back to what I was talking about earlier about, like, how we get delayed in life. Like, I used to be a musician, and that was my whole life for, like, I don't know, like 10, 12 years. And then I got really sick and my computer crashed, and I just had no way of doing it for like a very long time. And just recently, I got a new computer and I downloaded GarageBand and I just made a little bop on my computer, and I felt so happy. I was like, it was as if I had like a major artery in my bloodstream that had been cut off, and now it was open and flowing. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I can't believe I've gone like almost a decade of my life without making music, because it's the thing that I have the most fun doing, like. And so, yeah, wherever you lose yourself, wherever you can feel that sense of like just flow and that just pure existence and that joy, like, it's really important to reconnect with those things. And I love that the Fool is our next card. The Fool is the beginning of the journey, so it's approaching things from the child mind. It can be a little naive, it can be a little bit devil may care, because there's just no weight of expectation. It's just that first like primal like spark into existence. And I think that's a good thing to think about too when we're pursuing the things that make us happy, because unfortunately in our culture, it is difficult to survive, and there is a lot of pressure around. If if you tell people like, oh, I do music, then they're like, oh, where can I hear it? Or, if you're an actor, they're like, oh, what have I ever seen anything you've done? And, it's fine. It's a natural, line of questioning. but my point is there is a lot of pressure to take the things that make us happy and monetize them, and take the things that make us happy and be successful, quote unquote, at them, and take the things that make us happy and make money doing them, and like be productive and be famous and be successful. And it's great if you can combine the things that you love into something that also brings you success and wealth and fame. It's also just as equally important to do the things that you love to do, regardless of all that outside noise. Like, I'm also a painter, and I find that I've enjoyed painting so much more since I stopped sharing my pictures on Instagram, because I'm just painting what makes me happy. I'm no longer concerned about the audience. Now, of course, that's not a good model for um, you know, of a successful art career, but it is. I just realized, like, my talking hands have been off camera. Hi. um, Point is, I think with this Fool card is just to take the leap, just to do it and have fun, just to do it from a childlike perspective of, like, who cares what anybody thinks? Who cares whatever comes of this? I love doing this. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna jump off this cliff, and I'm gonna do it just because it makes me happy. You know, like, that, I think, is the message there, is to, whatever brings you joy, just freaking do it, if you can. And, like, I keep coming back into this reading, like, in full acknowledgement, we can't always do the things that make us happy. And so there does have to be a choice. There does have to be a moment where you go, like, you know what, I am going to do this. I am going to take 30 minutes of my day to paint. I'm going to take, an hour of my day to make a beat on my, garage band. I'm going to take an hour of my day to take a walk through my neighborhood and see which flowers are blooming today. Like, sometimes it's out of our hands, but other times it's a choice. And so when you have the choice, just do it. Just go for it. And the third card that we're getting is the Star, which, like I said before, is my very favorite tarot card, because it's a card about going through a difficult time, a difficult journey. It's a card that follows the tarot card, the Tower, and the Tower is about things collapsing. It's about things that weren't working in your life falling down. And the next sequence in our soul's journey is the Star, and that's when you look up in the night sky and you have this bit of hope. You have this sense that things are happening for a reason, that there's this connectedness to everything, that you're not alone, that this bright pinpoints of light in the sky are loving towards you and not trying to hurt you and not trying to make you despair, but there's a bigger, larger picture. And I think when we can frame what we're going through from the perspective of the Star, like it's saying, written in the stars, like, our destinies don't always agree with our egos. In fact, they probably most of the time don't, let's be fair, because presumably we come to a place as difficult as Earth to grow and to evolve and to increase in our faith and increase in our awareness and our depth and our compassion and our ability to love. And so the lessons that we go through to do those things aren't easy usually. Usually it's really that the opposite of what you want to happen happens, and then you have to learn to love yourself. Even when your spouse leaves, you have to learn to love yourself. When your business falls apart, you have to learn to trust that this so-called failure was part of the larger plan. For me, like I said, I was really into doing my music, and then I got really sick and I couldn't do it for a long time. And that journey that I took stopped being a linear path forward, and it started being a path that went down into the underworld, into the depths of my being, into my sense of mortality, into having the blinders off about the people around me, into learning how to really take care of myself, and learning, like, who I actually am and what I really actually want. And so now that I'm returning to these things that bring me joy, like music, I'm returning with this depth that I didn't have before. And I'm also returning with a sense of, like, I don't really care what anybody thinks about this. I just want to do it because it's fun. Like, like, all that pressure that made it not fun before is gone. Like, there's, zero, what's given at this point. And so the message of the Star card is that even when things aren't going as planned, even when they're not going the way we want them to go, that there is a higher intelligence at play in our lives. and that can help us to feel more joyful even when we're going through difficulties, to know like, okay, it's just like in the Karate Kid when, the Karate Kid has to wax on, wax off, and do these really mundane things, and he's like, this is not what I want to do. I want to fight and be, the hero, and I don't want to wax your car or, paint the house. And, you know, the star card is understanding that we're always building upon this like larger story of our soul. And so when we can find joy even in the mundane things that we don't quote unquote want to do, or at least find the beauty in them, that can help our overall sense of joy. So because we are exploring or talking about the stars and the cosmos, I want to go next to, let's stay out there, let's stay out in the cosmos, and let's ask the heavenly bodies. Dear heavenly bodies, what would you teach us about finding our joy, our spark in life? What lessons do the heavenly bodies want to teach us about joy? And I only read jumpers, so sometimes they come out like super fast, and sometimes they need a little time. All right, here we go. So we have Aries, we have air, and we have the 7th house. So the keywords for the sign of Aries are independence, bravery, and passion. So it says the first sign of the zodiac, Aries is quite simply excited to be alive. It's curious, adventurous, and independent. It spearheads its own path, never waiting for guidance, drawing on its own fiery engine for fuel. It's inspired, energetic, and physically active. Mars ruled, these are leaders and natural initiators, always pushing forward towards uncharted territory. And to talk about like the signs, like I have a complicated relationship to astrology because just like I don't like to read tarot in the sense of like predictive fate, I also don't feel that way about astrology, that that we're just sort of puppets to the stars. I think the heavenly bodies do influence us, but they're archetypes. They're these sort of massive celestial bodies that are in our awareness and in our neighborhood, cosmically speaking, and we can draw inspiration from them. So I love that the Aries sign of Aries is coming out. And even if you don't have this sign as one of like your major 3, like your sun, moon, or rising sign, it's still quite possible you have it somewhere in your chart. And even if you don't have it in your chart at all, you can still call upon this kind of energy, like this. It's very, to me, reminiscent of this Fool energy. It's that initial spark. It's that and like it's saying that Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. The Fool is the first step of the journey. So sparking our joy does require us to have that passion, or I don't want to say have that passion, but like connect to our passion. We don't always just have it. Sometimes we have to willingly connect to our passion and really think about like what sparks us, what really turns our light on, and like fires us up, and like go for it, like go towards that. Like when I was sick and I couldn't do anything but like study, I just studied all the things that were really interesting to me, and I never in a million years thought I would end up doing YouTube like tarot readings. Like that was not the path I was thinking. I was just studying really random things that were interesting to me, like astrology, like alchemy, like herbalism, and the tarot, and somehow it all just kind of gelled together, but it was me saying like, oh, this is interesting to me, I'm gonna like follow this path, and not really concern myself for where it's gonna go. And so I think that's the lesson with Aries and with the Fool is just, if something lights you up, like explore it. Don't worry about where is this gonna like lead to. Like the path will reveal itself. But if you're fired up by something, there's, I would say, a good reason for it. And if that reason is just that you enjoy it, that's a good enough reason. Like we don't have enough like dialogue in our culture, in our society, about like, what have you done lately that makes you happy? We talk about how busy we are, how overworked we are, how stressed out we are. It's like this badge of honor to like run ourselves into the ground. Like, how often do we have conversations with someone and be like, when, what was the last time you felt really happy? Was it like out in your garden? Was it taking a walk? Was it playing with your kid? Was it, beating on some drums? Was it, making a crochet project? Like, what's the last time that you felt that like spark of creativity and passion? Like, follow that. When you feel that little stirring, and you like make time for yourself. It doesn't have to be like your whole life. It doesn't have to take up every waking moment, but usually most of us can find like a little bit of time and we might start to carve a path. And I know it's hard. I know it's hard out there. It is not an easy world to survive in. But this message is very much saying, just go for it. Like, go for the things that make you excited. So next, oh, it's crazy. If you watch my past readings, it's nothing short of a miracle. I just literally opened up to the page. So now we're on to the element of air. So this usually is referring to like air signs. Air is the invisible world of thought, intellect, and philosophy. Like the open sky, it hovers above ground and holds a zoomed out perspective. Detached from the here and now, it's a high reaching, forward thinking bird's eye view. This is a completely mental realm of information and learning, the ethers from which ideas arise. It's a head in the clouds energy removed from physical reality and emotion. Its inherent distance allows for pure thought, abstract and impartial. So this is also reminding me of this Fool card, where she's like kind of just standing on this cliff, like it might as well be like a peak of a mountain, and there is a sort of there is a lot of value in getting a higher perspective. Like there's a time and place for every type of emotion and thought in our lives, but if you can like literally get up high somewhere, preferably in nature, on a hill or something, you can get this peace, you can get this perspective, because it's like the saying, you can't see the forest for the trees. And sometimes you do have to just zoom out of your day-to-day reality to see it for what it is, to see like, where are you putting your energy, what, even in your internal processing of the world, like what are you thinking about? Are you thinking about things that make you happy, or are you thinking about things that make you angry and stress you out? Like, all emotions are valid, but there is a difference between feeling your emotions and feeding your emotions. And it's a really important distinction, because we have to feel through all of our feelings in order to transmute them and release them and heal them. But we can also fall into the trap of feeding our emotions. And that's where we get caught in these like thought cycles of really focusing on the things that make us angry. Any of us have buttons that can make us angry, but if you're focused in on that all the time and that's where your thoughts are going, like you're not going to have a lot of joy in your life if you're always thinking angry thoughts and bad thoughts. And like I said, if it's a if it's pertinent to a real life thing that you're going through and you're going through it, it's healthy. But if you're the one stoking that fire, if you're the one throwing the wood on the fire of those negative emotions, then it's important to like take that step back, and on that mountain peak, whether it's through climbing a literal mountain, or like meditation, or there's different ways that we can sort of open up the vistas of our own internal space and say, like, where am I putting my energy? Is it making me happy, or is it not? So that's a good message for us there. The next up is the House 7. I'm not I'm not super into astrology. I'm still finding my groove with it. Like I was saying, I don't see it as this sort of predictive thing so much as like something to consider. But according to astrology, we have these different houses that rule different aspects of our life. And so the house that's coming forward in this reading is our house of relationships. So Ruled by Venus, house 7. This house holds your intimate relationships. These are the people you attract by way of friendship, romance, and even business. If looked at from the perspective of a lifespan, it's falling in love in marriage. But more figuratively, it's your partnership of all kinds and the condition of your relationships. There are, of course, direct reflections of your own self-image and why this realm echoes the energies of the house 1. Relationships are where we explore self through the mirror of another. So I think that's, it's a profound part of our happiness is the relationships that we have. And I would even maybe I would word that differently and not say so much the relationships that we have, because for most of us, the relationships that we quote unquote have are, more or less set, more or less you have the mom and dad that you have, and you have the kids that you have, and you have the friends that you have, and the coworkers that you have. But we can have a lot more joy in our life in the way that we cultivate those relationships. When you, okay, if these are the people that I'm kind of stuck with, and I don't mean that in a negative way. And of course, some relationships we're not stuck with. Some relationships like coworkers or friendships we can, do something about. But I don't mean stuck in a negative way. It's just probably when you look at your life, you could probably list, a couple dozen people that you're like, okay, these are the people in my life. And so it's looking at those relationships and saying, how can I cultivate these relationships towards greater joy? How do I make my relationship with my son, my coworker, my friend, my cousin, my sister, my mom, and of course relationships are, takes two to tango. You can't do anything about people who are toxic or abusive, and that's not your job to change them. But in the relationships that you have, where you have a mutual sense of respect and love and understanding with each other, our relationships really are one of the number one things that bring us joy. I just realized, I've been happy in myself lately in the sense that I feel like I finally figured out what I'm doing with my life. And it's been a long journey. And so there's a sense of satisfaction in that and feeling like, okay, I got it all figured out. And then almost immediately after, I was really triggered by relationship stuff. And I realized okay, it's great to have your work, the things that you do, I love painting. I love doing these tarot readings. I love making music. I'm so happy, with what I'm doing with my life, quote unquote. But we're not just meant to produce and do and create, we are also here to connect and to feel and to enjoy our lives. And relationships are a massive part of that. So I think having that perspective on our relationships, that each relationship is a portal to joy, each relationship is a portal to a happier life when we cultivate it as such, when we treat it as such, when we honor it as such, and when we get a little curious about each other and go a little deeper and make time for each other. Because I don't find for myself, based on this last experience I just had, that even if I was a world famous painter, a musician, a tarot reader, that if I don't have love in my life, if I don't have connection in my life, it's going to feel empty, I really do think that we need both. We need the things that we do that make us happy, and we need the relationships that make us happy. So I'm glad that card came out, because I have recently found that to be a truth for myself. All right. Moving on. I want to go visit the inner child, because our inner child does have a lot of influence on our present day awareness. And so let's check in with the inner child. I think that we have a version of ourselves in every age within ourselves. So we have our inner 16-year-old, we have our inner 10-year-old, we have our inner 3-year-old, and you can bring yourself a lot of joy in life by doing things that would make that version of you really happy, maybe, your inner 20-year-old really wanted a nose piercing and you couldn't afford it, or your parents wouldn't let you get one or something. And so maybe now you're 60 and you're like, you know what? I'm going to go get that nose piercing. It's going to make my inner 20-year-old really happy. You know, maybe you see a stuffed animal and it just, you know, grasps at your heart and you're like, wait, I'm in my 30s. Like, I don't need stuffed animals. Yes, you do. Your inner child needs them, you know? Maybe you see, like, you know, a bouquet of flowers and you're like, I wish somebody would buy me flowers. Well, buy them for yourself. You know, like, we have all these versions of ourselves within. So it's like we're not just having relationships with people outside of ourselves to bring us joy, but we're having relationships with all the different versions of our own self within us. So, you know, if that's buying a drum kit or a, you know, paint set or a crystal or going on a cruise to a place that you were really fascinated with when you were like a kid and you don't know why you were so fascinated with this place, like you're worth making happy, you know, you're worth making happy, like all those different versions of yourself. It's another way we can tap into joy. So that's my 2 cents, but let's see what the cards say. uh, Dear Spirit, what message wants to come through today for making our inner child happy, sparking our joy? What does our inner child need to hear today to be happy? And then the message is go inward. It's time to connect with your inner child. So maybe the message is just to acknowledge it, to listen to it, be like, oh, you're in there, you exist. Because, you know, we can tend to lose that part of ourselves. And that inner child is so magical. It's the part of ourselves that knows that, you know, the animals and the trees and the plants are alive and that we can communicate with the other side, and that, you know, our stuffed animals are sentient beings, and like, you know, like we don't have to lose that childlike magic. It's a veil that sort of gets put on us as we get older. We're told like, oh, that's not real, you know, but it is real. And we can totally regress back to that childlike way of looking at the world. And it's not a regression, it's reclaiming like a bigger, more magical reality. Now, you don't have to do that, of course. You're welcome to live in the world of logic and reason and, you know, disenchantment, you know, and you're also welcome to take it back if you want, you know, take back that wonder. So the card says, go inward. One powerful way to connect with your inner child can be through visualization. This is the practice of seeing with your mind's eye while your physical eyes are closed. This practice can be a bit tricky for some in the beginning. So if you've never tried working with visualization, do not worry. If it's a slow process, you will get there in the end. In this exercise, focus on allowing your inner child to come through your mind's eye. Find a quiet place where you can sit or lie down comfortably with minimal distractions. Once you are ready and your eyes are closed, allow your focus to travel inward toward your center. As you allow your focus to drift inward, your inner child will slowly come to you. Once they do, let them be as they are, even if there are aspects of them that you would like to change. Embrace them, listen to whatever they have to say, and shower them with love and affection. Responsive journaling prompt. What feelings arise for you when you talk with or visualize your inner child? Do you feel love, joy, apprehension, or anxiety? Ask yourself why you might feel this way whenever you meet with your inner child. So yeah, I think the message is just to acknowledge that part of ourselves. You know, our inner children are vastly creative, vastly magical. Like, look at kids when they get together, like at a family gathering, they just have fun the whole time. Like, they are in a constant state of joy. I mean, I don't want to say constant because sometimes they fall off the wagon and they get bruised and they cry for a few minutes, and that's okay, that's life. But you know, like their whole motive is to have fun. Their whole motive is to connect and like play games and be really like engaged and like present with like the natural world. Like, you know, they're really excited to find like a frog or a crawdad or you know, like in the creek, and like we can have that same joy towards life. And there's no rule that says you have to let that go just because you quote unquote grew up. I mean, the human lifespan, what's 70 years like? Really, it's like nothing. Like, we all die children. Like, that's the truth of it, you know. Like, you can be a boring child that has like cut off all of your, you know, sense of magic about the world. And I don't mean boring like you're boring, but like you can be cut off from the things that make life exciting, or you cannot. You can reopen that, you know, sense of wonder and excitement in yourself. And I guarantee that it goes back to getting in touch with that inner child, that part of you that's like never left. They've just been kind of shunned and shut down. So really a powerful message there from the inner child oracle. Now I'm curious to get, let's go to the plant world. Just get a couple plants that can help us, some plant medicine to help us on our way to finding our joy. That card that flipped up, it was already flipped up, was from a reading yesterday, so that wasn't for us today. Dear planty friends, which planty friends want to teach us to connect with our joy? And I have another deck I want to reach out for as well. This one has a combination of plants and crystals. Your spirit, which plants and crystals can help us to connect with our joy today. So we have lavender. It's funny, lavender came up in the reading yesterday that I did with a different deck, so lavender's definitely making an appearance right now. So in this deck, lavender represents the weaver of potential, new beginnings, intuitive intellect, contemplative phase, emotional fulfillment, and walking in alignment. And in its reversed energy, it's an unsettled spirit, unable to see possibility, lacking mentality, untrusting, and overly critical. So yeah, I love that for sparking our joy. The weaver of potential, new beginnings, walking in alignment. So it's very, very cohesive to this sort of Fool energy of, just trying new things, starting something up. The guidance for lavender is much like the medicine of spider, a master communicator that organizes, refines, and systemizes many elements of life. Lavender's medicine provides us with the power of discipline and focused energy, key elements to enable manifestations. Spider's here today to remind you that when you're not communicating from a higher alignment, we quickly become entangled, overly critical, and even block the flow of creativity and healing communication. Connect to the energy of the spiral to journey deep into your shadows and allow this organizing system to facilitate higher alignment to your foundation when needed. Use the gifts of communication such as music, poetry, art, and dance to nurture creativity as you weave your life. So that's a great message for us. Like, I love the spider web analogy because it's coming from nature, but I've often thought of life as like a tapestry, and that we're always weaving the tapestry of our life. So, whatever colors you bring to that, whether that's spending more time in nature, whether it's spending more time making art, whether it's spending time with your kids, like when your life is finished and you looked at this finished tapestry that you've woven, it's your hands that are doing the weaving. Now, there are things that have been woven onto us, unfortunately, and this is also talking about doing shadow work. It's also talking about seeing where we've become blocked and where things are in need of deeper healing. So, if someone has woven a big black, patch over your flowers, like, yeah, it takes work, it takes effort, it takes saying like, oh, here's this big, you know, patch on my tapestry that someone else wove onto it and I don't want it there. So you have to do the work. You have to first of all face it, and then you have to work through those feelings and transmute them, and then you have to find your own, your own meaning for it. Like, I don't know that life has an ultimate meaning other than the meaning that we give it. And so that's sort of the power of the search for meaning, is that if we take a difficult experience in our life, like we're talking about the tower falling and then looking up at the stars and feeling like everything is still in a cosmic order, like that's a power we have as we're weaving our tapestry, to face the hard things, the dark things, the things that have cut us off from our true essence, the things that have cut us off from our creativity and our joy, and say, I am the weaver of this tapestry, and I'm going to make it look beautiful. And oftentimes when you look at beautiful art, there are dark places, there are jagged edges, and darker elements in beautiful art as well. It is all a part of life. Like, life isn't going to all just be like a tapestry of rainbows and kittens and butterflies, but it can still be beautiful. And that's the power we have. We have the power to weave our life according to the vision that we have for it, according to our what we conceive is possible, and what we're willing to do to make that beauty a reality for us. All right, next up we have the Ethiopian opal. Just as I was saying, life can't be all rainbows and butterflies. Here we have unicorns and rainbows. Just awesome. Because we got to have some of that magic, right? Now I just need the magic of finding the correct page. I find this particular guidebook to be difficult to read. I should probably get some reading glasses or something, but I do apologize that with this book in particular, I seem to have a difficult time reading it. All right. Ethiopian opal, fertile ground, Pegasus, unicorn energy, rainbow child. So I feel like this, I already feel like intuitively, like this is a good stone to work with to connect to our inner child, right? As this opal's core is rainbow love, she lifts you up so you can see the love within you. Her internal fire brings spiritual light into your systems and enhances your connection to cosmic consciousness, holding you up in joy and reverence for the multitude of facets and endless possibilities to love within you. Her emotional intensity is charged and ready to jump into action to support the release of your fears. Her energy oscillates and swirls, taking on an elemental personality that will dance around your higher chakras, sweetly singing to your inner child, dancing with your wild woman or man, and sitting with your crone or elder aspect. It swirls around the spinal column until shaking within the base of your spine to connect to your Shakti or Kundalini energy. She brings peace, purity, and a wish to support your Kundalini energy as it rises in a balanced, harmonious way, bringing to light cosmic entanglements that may be holding back your Kundalini flow. We must call upon Kundalini we must call the Kundalini up in a balanced way to seat itself in the heart before it moves up and out of the crown. She brings that connection, that flow, that space to nurture and be with this flow. So Kundalini, if you're not aware, is the term for the life force that rests in our spine, so that primal spark, that, life-giving energy, can be, is often spoken of in connection to like our sensual energy, because our sensual energy is like our creative energy. So it's that creative power within us, so it's releasing that spark within. You're moving through key moments in your soul's growth. You're evoking the action of the fourth ray, the ascension flame in the white light of the mother, in the base of the spine chakra, to help purify you and lift you so you may climb your path to ascension. Opal shows you that you are on top of a mountain. After the arduous climb, you are home. Take a moment to stand in the precipice of your hopes and dreams and bask in the light around you. Good things are coming. So yeah, the opal is a very magical stone to connect with, to get in touch with this flow of energy, to get that higher perspective, to get in touch with our inner child. So yeah, very much makes sense why the opal is coming through in this reading. Plus, they're just really pretty. Like whether or not you believe in crystals having magical powers, I mean, I do from my own personal experience of working with them. But even if you don't, just holding an opal and looking at all the like shimmers of rainbow light in them, like it makes you feel a certain way. It's like it does sort of make you feel like you're entering a magical realm of existence just looking at one, because they're like a literal rainbows in stone. I mean, that is so magical, right? Like, I love this stuff because you're like, it's like real magic. It's all around us all the time, just waiting for us to see it. All right, and we also got St. John's wort. Wort is the Old English word for plant, so you could also just look at that as St. John's plant. If the word wart is funny to you, I know it is kind of funny. So upright, it means joy, warmth, resilience, happiness, understanding, manifestation, spiritual power, and protection. Reversed, it's unhappiness, avoidance, running away, escape, and not walking your truth. The guidance. The Midsummer Goddess celebrates the multifaceted elements of life in a state of joyous abundance, reminding us that the wellspring of true wealth and healing is within. St. John's wort is here to remind you to cultivate practices deep within yourself to experience this enlightening truth. Avoidance and distraction from this great knowing are unconscious habits that build up and manifest as scarcity, fear, and low moods that inhibit you from walking your truth. St. John's wort grants us the courage of fire needed to navigate the death of the old self. I like how this energy talks about avoidance and distraction, because I think those are two of the biggest hindrances we have to joy in our life. Like, the world is overwhelming, life is overwhelming. Like the desire to come home from work and just have an adult beverage and watch some Netflix is, it's very cocooning and safe to numb out and to distract ourselves. And sometimes we absolutely need it. Like, if I'm really sick or really depressed, like, I will lay in bed and watch TV shows, because what else are you going to do? Like, there are times in our life when we can't move forward. There are times in our life when we just have to hold on for dear life. And I certainly am not saying that no one should have a comforting habit or something that makes them feel relaxed at the end of a hard day. We need those things too, but it's only within ourselves when we can navigate. Are we leaning too much on distraction? Are we leaning too much on numbing ourselves? Because while those are tools to get us through a crucial moment, they're tools to get us through times when we really are too overworked and too frazzled and too stressed out and too sad to do anything. Absolutely, those things happen. Absolutely, there's a time and place. But if distraction and comfort and numbness become your habits, you're not going to be able to find your joy, I don't think, because you kind of have to face yourself to find your joy. You have to face your shadows. You have to face your desires. You have to face, the programming in your mind. You have to face your relationships. And numbing and distraction are the opposite of facing our lives, so that's I think an important part, to bring up in this reading about finding our joys. Only we know when we're on the wrong side of the line. And just by wrong, like, it just doesn't feel good, you know, when you go to hit that next episode, you know, on Netflix, and you get that kind of gross feeling, or you open that next, you know, adult beverage, and you're like, oh, I really could have just not had that one, or, you know, like, only you know for yourself where the line is, you know, like, but it's really important to stay like on top of that line, to know when it's time to actually push yourself to grow and evolve and do something that's going to lead to your joy. And St. John's wort is also it's a very effective antidepressant, a natural antidepressant. You know, the yellow flowers that, you know, are soaking up the sun's radiance, and then you take that into your body, and it helps me. I actually get the opposite of like winter depression. I get summer depression. So I take St. John's wort a lot in the summer, and that's because I live somewhere that's very hot, and I get very like stagnant feeling because I'm like always stuck inside. And so I end up taking St. John's wort to increase my mood. And I would say, you know, I'm not a doctor. Please don't ever take my advice on what to take for any sort of ailment. But there are a lot of, I have learned by being sober that there are a lot of plants out there that can affect how you're feeling in different ways. And they're quite magical. And so I understand the need to transform your consciousness sometimes. I'm just throwing it out there that there's a lot of ways of doing that, and ways that are kind of subtle, and ways that won't give you a hangover, and ways that will help you to work with what's going on with you instead of just numbing you out. So it's just something to consider, you know, when it comes to like facing up to our lives to create and weave these patterns of joy and happiness for ourselves. So, anyway, speech over. All right. I feel like this has been a fairly long reading. Just gonna, I do want to go to the animal kingdom real quick here. I'm gonna ask the animals their advice on finding our joy. Dear animals, how would you advise us in finding our joy? Oh, armadillo, you are about to shine. The armadillo. Just as we see armadillo wearing an armor of scales, this reinforces the idea of going inward. That's been a theme, right? We got the going inward for our inner child. The inward work is exactly what allows us to shine outward. This inner contemplation leads to more brilliant inner light that will eventually be witnessed and felt by all. Armadillo says that what you have to offer will be recognized. Do not get bogged down with the how and when. Do not be led by outside validation. Instead, be led by the greater consciousness you were created from. We connect to our inner light when we connect to the source that created us. Armadillo's medicine asks you to create a very intimate relationship with that which created you. You are being asked to level up your daily prayers and create a dialogue with life. Drop all your wants and desires and create an intense conversation with the great mystery about receiving guidance to do what you were created to do. We all have special gifts that lie dormant within us, waiting to actualize. In this moment of deep connection to the great mystery, a mysterious energy begins to activate our gift. This conversation and prayer you create needs to feel very real. Prayer does not need to look one specific way. It is intimate communication with that which you were created from. Start speaking to life. If you create this intense and mysterious relationship with life daily, you will begin to witness yourself unlocking all your gifts. Life speaks back to those who speak to it, but it's your job to start the conversation. You might not receive an answer right away, but it will come to you with full force in the perfect way at the right time. Armadillo's medicine says that you are about to be seen, heard, felt, witnessed, understood, and recognized. It's coming for you. You're about to shine so brightly. But now is the before time, when you first must ignite your gift of light through going inward and channeling the universe. So, it was a really incredible message from Armadillo, very powerful. And yeah, I can relate. I know that, my illness was the thing that made me have to go really inward, and I did get spit out the other side, feeling very connected to myself, and that allowed me to feel connected to my gifts. And we don't always have the advantage and disadvantage of falling ill and being very still for a long time like I did, but I can attest to the powerful transformation there is when you do take that time to go inward, whatever time you can find for yourself, because each of us has a beautiful gift to bring forward, and that is part of our finding our joy, is being the light that we are, each one of us. He's holding this little candle, little spark of joy. All right, let's do one more card here to close out. This is from the Divine Destinies deck, or I'm sorry, Sacred Destiny deck. Here's your spirit. You have a message for us to close out this reading. Thank you for all the messages you've given us, ways that we can spark our joy. We have a final closing thought for us today. And we have security. Really beautiful picture. If you can see it, it's a fireplace. Looks like it's inside a cave with cave art and the stars. Very beautiful. Ugh. I don't know if you can hear this, somebody on a loudspeaker outside, so it's definitely time to wrap this reading up. Okay, security. The firelit cave. In ancient times, our forebears took refuge in caves. It was there that they could seek shelter from the weather and be protected from predators and enemies. The cave offered a safe place to prepare food, sleep, heal, and build community. Caves were also the places where sacred spiritual ceremonies occurred, evidenced by cave drawings and altars that had been built along the ledges. Symbolically, caves are often represented. I swear someday I'll get glasses. I'm sorry. Spiritually, caves often represented a secret path to the underworld, the divine womb of Mother Earth, and the sacred heart. Also, caves can be energy portals for shamans or other spiritual explorers. The sacred landscape wants you to know you are safe and protected. No matter what is occurring in your life, you are in safe hands. Those in the realm of spirit are watching over you. You can relax and let go. Once you've taken measures to protect yourself and those you love, such as making sure everyone has their seatbelt on, making sure your insurance is paid on time, or replacing the filter on your heating unit, then let go. If you've been hyper-vigilant lately, take a break, relax. Know that all is well. You can turn it all over to the Creator. And that's a really important part of our joy, right? It's like the first fundamental thing is to feel a sense of safety. And we do that, I think, most predominantly through our relationships, and our relationships to each other, in our relationships to the world, and our relationships to the unseen world, to spirit, to our ancestors. The more we reach out, the more we build connection, the safer we feel. And the safer we feel, the more we can let down our guard and go inward and do this work that's required to reach our joy. So it's a very fundamental building block to finding our joy, is to have security and peace, and in knowing that we're in good hands. And for me, a lot of that for me is connecting to the spirit world. I don't think I would be alive if I wasn't able to connect to the spirit world. So even if you feel very alone in your life at this time, or you feel like you don't have anyone you can connect to, that's a really powerful place to start. And just trust. There's this night sky, coming back from this star energy, that there's love surrounding us, that there is meaning surrounding us, that our ancestors are surrounding us, that spirit is surrounding us, that we can let go a little bit, that we can trust that we're in good hands, so that we can do the work to find our joy. So I'm going to wrap it up due to the noise outside and it being a long reading, but I hope that when you find this reading, that there's a message for you that helps you to spark your divine joy. And going back to what I was saying earlier, I was going to do this reading a couple weeks ago and I wasn't able to, and I'm doing it now. So please let that also resonate, if it does for you, that you haven't missed your chance. If you're alive and kicking and watching this video, there's still time to create joy in your life and to be on fire for life. And I wish you all the best in your journey. Much love.